And now we're working on the last couple of finishing touches. Let's pull up my page. So this is my CSS. In number 17, step 17 on page 166, I need to add a text shadow to 75th in the second heading in the header. Okay, so I need to go back to my HTML, and where I see 75th here, I want the 75th, only the 75th, not celebrating hour and not year, but only the 75th to be set apart and have a shadow around it. So to do that, I need to use a span or an M element. Now, the reason it doesn't matter is because a span element won't do anything except set this particular text apart so that you can do code on it. That's all that a span does. M, though, is a semantic element, meaning that that element or what's inside there is going to be emphasized or italicized. Well, because this particular line is already italicized, it doesn't matter if we re-italicize it or not. I would say in here, I would choose to use a span, though. And the reason I would do that is because I'm not actually trying to specify this 75th by anything except I want to add some CSS to it. That's my purpose for what I'm doing here. I need to put the span around that entire 75th, including the superscript tags. I'm putting span around all of that. And my span needs to have a class of shadow. Class of shadow on the 75th is going to now allow us in the CSS. I'm going to go ahead and save this while I'm here. Save it, and I'm going to go back to the main.css. And in this section, no, I'm sorry, that's up in the header, isn't it? In this header, I'm going to give myself a class or refer to that class with a dot. Dot shadow means the element with class shadow. So this shadow class gets a shadow to the text with 800,000 as the color of the shadow. Okay, so I wrote myself in a little note here. This is on page 152 and 153. And this gives us some details about using a text shadow and adding a color to that. So I'm going to use what's about halfway down that text shadow, and my numbers are the horizontal offset, the vertical offset, so whether it's left or right, whether it's up or down, and how far, the blur radius, so how far the blur goes out, and then the shadow color. And the shadow color, it told me what color to use. But everything else it left up to me. So if I go ahead and just use these numbers that the example has, I can have the text shadow have a horizontal offset of -2 pixels, and then a vertical offset, so that means it's going down and to the right. My shadow is going down and to the right. And it's blurring out 4 pixels, okay? And then the color that I need is that one. Okay, does that look okay? Yeah, maybe. I think I'd rather have it down and to the, I'm sorry, that's up and to the left. I'd rather have it down and to the right. Yeah, I think I like that better personally, but it doesn't tell me exactly how I need to do it. Feel free to play with it. Set that to something bigger. See what the difference is. Set it to something smaller and see what happens. If the blur is at 1, that's what happens. If the blur is at 99, it almost goes away, but you can kind of see that there's some color to it. Let's see what it looks like at 9. That's what it looks like at 9. So feel free to play with this. Do whatever you want. Just make sure that you change the color to the color that they tell you in the textbook. I'm going to set that back to 4 because I thought that one looked just fine. Celebrating our 75th year. The 75th stands out without it being too obnoxious. And the last thing that it wants me to do is test the page in IE. Okay, and it does tell me that it's not going to work if I'm using an early version of Explorer, but I'm not. I don't have an early version, and in fact, I don't even know if I have IE on here. I'm going to test it in Edge, which is essentially the same thing in what we're doing. So always to test this in a different browser, first of all, I'm sorry, I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to validate it, and then I'm going to test it. So I'm going to do a CSS validator, and I'll just do it by direct input. Come over here and select all, Control A, Control C, Control V, check. Congratulations, no errors found. Okay, so now I know that I'm validated. And now I can go back and check in my Town Hall 1, right-click on index.html, open with, and try a different browser. Oh, I do have Explorer. I open it in Explorer, and it doesn't look great, but it looks fine. Now my centering isn't working. My spacing isn't working because of it being on Explorer, but that's okay. Let's look at it in a different browser. Open with Firefox. How does that look? Yeah, that looks just fine too. You know what? This doesn't have these changes that I just made. I think have I saved it? No, it's not reading my new changes. So I need to make sure that I save it. Oh, fiddlesticks. I was using the one from fall 18. No? Okay. Well, it looks fine there. And now I'm having some problems with my computer. So I'm just having computer issues here. Let's say that there's something going on. Oh, here I've selected the fall 18. I need to select that. I need to get to my, this is so messy. I need to be saving this better, and I'm not doing a very good job of saving it. So hopefully you've done a better job of being organized and saving this and looking at the year instead of the, looking at the year of what you're working on. Be careful about that. Anyway, here is where after I've made the changes in the correct place, this is where I will zip my file. I right-click on Town Hall 1, go down to Send to Compressed Zipped Folder, and then I'll have it zipped properly. Compressed zipped folder. You can rename that. You can put your name in it. You can call it Chapter 4 Exercise and your last name and first name. That would be fantastic. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm sorry about my confusion, but I will try to remember to use the right files in the future. And thanks. Let me know if you have questions.